Jen Statsky, you're one of the co-creators, producers, and writers of the comedy series Hacks, about the partnership between a veteran comic and a young writer. Is there a lot of pressure as a TV writer to write a show that's in large part about the writing process?
There is, yeah, because we're very aware in writing it that we should know this better than anyone. We should know how these characters speak and act, because it is our lives as well, and also that our peers will be watching the show, hopefully, and they'll also be very aware of what's real and anything that would feel false. So it is. It's definitely something we take seriously to try to get right. At the same time, it's also, I've found, having written other shows not about comedians or comedy writers, it's nice to know that they can kind of speak in jokes more naturally than, say, other types of people would on screen, because that is their language, that is their profession and how they kind of move through the world. So in that way, it's also like a little bit of a cheat code, because these characters get to be super funny and say things like that. And you're not like, oh, would someone speak in that perfectly crafted joke perfectly on our best day? And it's a little bit easier because a comedian or comedy writer can naturally speak like that.
And is the process of writing the show similar to at all how Deborah and Ava write? Does sort of what goes on in the writer's room inform what goes on in the show? Besides the
Yeah.
lawsuit.
No, including the lawsuit. No, it's really accurate. I mean, this show is created by myself and Lucia Agnello and Paul W. Downs, and it's very much so about the kind of love language that is a creative collaboration. That is what you see on screen with Deborah and Ava, and also what we have off screen. Obviously, their relationship is a little more complicated and fraught, but it's a lot of, that was something we were very committed to getting right, because, as you said, comedy writers and people like that would know if it was false. And so, yeah, I think we take a lot of how our working relationship is and inject it into the characters and the way they speak and how they kind of go about doing the work.
And you won the Writers Guild Award last year for Best Comedy Series. Is the recognition from the WGA especially meaningful given the subject matter of the show?
Yeah, it's super, super meaningful. Like to win Best Comedy Series and New Series was like, I mean, for me, honestly, like as someone who grew up wanting to be a comedy writer and TV writer, like that was kind of a life highlight for sure, because it does just mean so much to be recognized by your peers and other writers. And, writers are the most critical for good reason. Like, we know how hard it is and to craft it, and we know when things are false and don't necessarily work. And so, yeah, it was incredibly meaningful to get those awards last year.
In writing a show about stand-up comedy, especially as Deborah is working to refine her new material in season 2, did you write, fuller routines for Deborah, or do you just write the parts that we see of her act along the way?
We don't write like from start to finish the act and then just use parts of it, but we do kind of pour over those specific moments and jokes, and we write hundreds of like alts for each joke. So we really want to try to get that right. And so we do like spend a lot of time crafting her stand-up, especially last year as she was going out on the road. We wanted it to feel really authentic, of like where a joke starts and how rough it starts, and then how it evolves throughout the process of touring. So we don't write from start to finish like the hour, but all in all of the stand-up jokes we've written for Deborah in total, we probably have a good 2-hour special ready to go. Which I think people would love to see Jean Smart do. So I should talk to her about that.
Absolutely, yeah. And the relationship between Ava and Deborah is so much the heart of the show, and it's always been, tumultuous too, at times. How did you decide, as writers, what the direction of that partnership would take in the wake of that email that sort of blew up their relationship in season 2?
Yeah, I mean, we knew it would be this, massive fracture in their relationship. And the goal of it was always, someone said, I think a therapy term, that conflict is intimacy. And I bought into that very hard, which is that, in relationships, if you never fight and it's always good, and it's you're never getting into the nitty gritty and getting kind of real with each other and having these issues, it's not as intimate and deep as a bond as it could be. And so the goal for this email and how it blows up was to deepen their relationship. We knew it would separate them for a while, and Ava would have to work her way back into Deborah's good graces and the lawsuit and such. But in the end, we felt that them being able to work through this and still be together at the end of it would mean that their relationship had deepened and was actually richer and more like rewarding for the both of them and for the audience to watch, hopefully.
And how did going on the road in that tour bus, with the characters sort of affect your approach to the story and character dynamics?
I think it was really fun because we got to have that kind of classic Deborah Ava dynamic, but we also got to a little bit, in season 1, Ava's the fish out of water because she's coming into Deborah's ecosystem in Las Vegas. And then in season 2, we kind of get to make Deborah the fish out of water too, because she's going to all these places that she hasn't been to in a long time. She's going to a state fair where there's a calf birth. She's going to a dirty dive bar on the road. Like, that was really fun for us to put Deborah in places that she hadn't been in quite a long time, because she has, built up this kind of castle in Las Vegas where she was very protected. And it's just kind of a classic, there's so many road trip movies, so many things like Midnight Run and stuff like that, where these characters are on the road, kind of them against the world, that is just gives you so many fun opportunities for comedy and stuff. So we were super excited to do that.
It also gave you the opportunity to write new characters along the way for actors like Harriet Sansom Harris and Laurie Metcalf. How invigorating is it to be able to write for comic voices like that?
It's amazing. I mean, we both those parts, we were so incredibly lucky to get the tremendous actors that we did. It's really fun. We feel really blessed because we have this amazing core cast where everyone is amazing, and then we get to bring in these people for a few episodes at a time. And yeah, it was just they elevate the material so much. We wrote that part for Laurie Metcalf praying that she would do it. And she did. And it was a million times funnier than I could have ever imagined. And same with Harriet Sansom Harris, it's such a wonderful, heartbreaking part that we were, that was one of my favorite, as we were blue skying at the beginning of the season and kind of breaking things. That was one of my favorite, that scene where she talks about quitting comedy at the picnic tables at the state fair. I was this is one of my favorite scenes we've ever done. And sometimes when you write that and you have really high expectations and you're I hope it is good, I hope it works out, and then she just knocked it out of the park and made it so much better than I even imagined. So yeah, we just feel incredibly lucky to get to work with the amazing actors we do.
And season 2 ended in a way that sets up another big shift in the characters and relationships. Did you already have ideas for how season 3 would take shape while you were working on season 2, or is that something that developed after while you were working on?
We did. We really like to kind of, as I'm sure a lot of writers do, get our tent poles set up first, so we know where the season is starting, and then we have to know what's happening in the finale and what we're building to in the Deborah and Ava relationship. So we knew always at the start of season 2 where we were headed in terms of where it would end. And then naturally you just start thinking and talking about, okay, so then where would we have to go from there? So very early on, we knew what would be happening at the end, and we're kind of building towards that, and then had our idea for season 3. When we pitched the show, and we've said this before, but when we pitched the show, we kind of pitched out the full arc of the series and where it would end. So we kind of have these tentpoles set and know where we're going for as long as we do it.
Well, I want to congratulate you on your continued success on the show. Congratulations on the Writers Guild nominations again. And thank you so much for talking to me about it.
Thanks for having me.